Good to go.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim DePack, and I'm from Winsor, Newton, and I will be your moderator today on this great class that we'll be doing Tulip Foam. I'm being joined today by your instructor, Shalene Louise Bishop, and she'll be taking you through today's class and be creating a beautiful watercolor tulip for you. We'll let Shalene start off over there and get ready. While we're waiting, everybody else, it's great to see everybody on the screen where you're coming from. Virginia, Denver, Long Island, Minnesota, Chicago. What else we got in there? Portland, Boston. Shalene, it looks like you have a really good class from all around the country. Oh, we have Toronto. Yeah. So we got some Canadians in here. That's awesome. And it's going.
Wow. I saw India.
Here, India. Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. I think it's much later in the night over there. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
All right. So are we ready to get started?
I think we can start. Venezuela as well. Wow. All right. Yeah, I think we can start.
All right, Al. So, hello. As Tim mentioned, I am Shalene Louise, and I am a painter from New Mexico. So it's always fun to see where everybody's from. I'm always curious who's the farthest person. But today we're going to be working on a watercolor tulip. So here's one I just worked on earlier today. My light is a little bit funny today because the sun is going out and behind clouds a bunch. So we'll see how it goes. So we're going to start by sketching together, unless you've already sketched ahead of time. So I have a little sketch that I printed out, and I'm just going to keep it in frame. If you don't feel confident to try sketching freehand with me, what you can do is you can print it out like I did, hold it up to a bright window, and then hold watercolor paper over it to trace it. Or you can go to a dark room in your house and just hold watercolor paper over your computer and then trace very carefully. So I would encourage you, though, to just try your best to freehand sketch with me. This sketch isn't too hard to follow, hopefully. So if we could switch to the overhead view, I'm going to talk you through some supplies and then we can get started.
Shalene, real quick, and just tell everybody that the class is currently being recorded, and within 24 hours, you'll be able to replay this again on the Michael's website. So if you want to paint along with her, go right ahead and do so. But if you want to just sit back, relax, and learn, absorb all the knowledge that she has and see how this goes, 24 hours from now, you can replay this video.
All right. And I always share the links to my classes on my Instagram. I have like a story called Michael's. And so if you follow me at Instagram, Shalene Louise, you can find access to all the past classes I've done, as well as this one. So, okay, talking you through supplies real quick, and then we'll get to it. So I'm using a size 6 and a size 3 round brush today, okay? These are both Winsor Newton Cotman brushes, okay? I'm using 3 colors today. I'm using Alizarin Crimson, Yellow Ochre, and Intense Phthalo Blue. If you happen to have one of these pocket palettes, this will work as well. Those 3 colors are in here. So what I'm trying to do today is, excuse me, I am kind of working from 3 primary colors, kind of. They're not like exactly like the most pure form of red, yellow, and blue, but they're pretty close. So if you just have 3 primary colors you want to use to paint along with me, that would be totally fine. It doesn't have to be the exact same colors as me. But I would recommend that the most important color that you do want to try and get as close to me is your red. I'm using a very pink red. This is Alizarin Crimson, okay? I'm going to use, let's see, I'm using Winsor Newton's. This is actually a 9x12 sheet that I cut in half. Here's the other half. So this is actually a 6x9. But if you've traced yours out on a 9x12, that's totally fine. It doesn't matter what size it's all good. I'm using just a regular click pencil for my sketch today. And I have an eraser, little tiny nub, a paper towel to blot with, and some water to mix with. So let's start with our sketch. Very important, okay? So I'm going to start by I'm just going to get this. Well, first of all, I want you to notice just the composition of this. Notice that the tulip flower is not perfectly centered, but it does feel really balanced. I feel like this feels nice and balanced because we kind of have a leaf that's going off to the left. So just be mindful of that your tulip doesn't need to be dead center. It's okay if it's a little bit off. And the way I like to kind of get my sketches ready, position them, is to just kind of do some loose strokes. It's kind of like a gentle way to place them without committing to any really hard lines. Anything that's really hard to erase later on.
Really, real quick, throwing that out, what color blues could someone substitute if they don't have the phthalo blue? Can they use a different darker shade of blue or lighter blue? Which do you recommend?
I would use, well, if you're using the Skechers box, I mean, you can use, there's ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, you can use Winsor blue. Blue is going to be the least used color today. So I would say that's the least essential, critical one to get right. But yeah, you can use any blue you have, any yellow you have, any blue you have, but try and use a pinky red, okay? So again, the colors I'm using, Alizarin Crimson, yellow ochre, and intense phthalo blue. So, and it's going to be fun. Like whatever colors you have, just use them. Like let's just see what you come up with. It won't probably look exactly like mine, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of get this stem placed and get this leaf kind of generally placed. And so I'm kind of just looking at it, eyeballing it, trying to make sure the composition just feels nice and balanced to me. And that feels pretty good. So I'm going to get started with kind of fleshing out some of these details. So I'm going to start with this petal right here that's just to the left. So I'm kind of just tracing the outer edge of this, this flower. I kind of have a ruffled line that goes upwards, kind of curves back, meets that top line. All right. And I'll do this petal that's right here, kind of the front, the very front petal. So I'm doing that same technique, kind of a wavy line. You guys, it does not need to be perfect. Tulips are such simple, they have such simple petals. You can keep it as simple as you want. Okay. And I will hold this up for you in just a minute. As soon as I finish sketching the flower itself, I'll hold it up for you. And make sure you have your sketch that we provided. Make sure you have that, you know, either printed out or on your computer. It's probably a little bit easier than referencing mine. I know the resolution isn't super, super amazing over Zoom. So right now I'm just working on these petals that are kind of folded, like this petal is kind of folded over in on itself. And then there's another one just behind there. And we have a couple more. So I'm going to do this ruffled outer edge. Kind of wraps around this front petal. Draw a line just over to the left of that line we just drew. So we kind of have the impression of a petal that's folding inward. And then the last petal, just one more inside of here. And then this is the part where I just kind of take a second and I just kind of look at it and make sure that I like the way it all feels together. This is the time where you gotta take a second, make sure everything feels right. Because the way you sketch it is the way it's gonna look somewhat when it's finished. So, oh yeah, and one more thing, I'm going to draw these lines that are kind of following the shape of the petal. So we want to kind of create that illusion that the petals are round. So follow the shape, the round shape of the tulip petals. Over here as well. So just kind of following the basic shape of the outside of this tulip. So I'm going to hold this up for you. And if you have got a very keen eye, you'll notice that this really doesn't look exactly like that, but it's okay. None of my sketches look the same twice. So, all right, so I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just draw the stem. So just draw 2 lines reaching down. You can give them a little bit of a bend. Don't necessarily want them straight up and down. You kind of want them just gently curving off to the left. And then let's work on this leaf. It's a simple leaf, but it does have a little bit of a complexity to it. There's some nice movement to it, I should say. So I'm going to start by drawing this line that is curving, okay? So notice the petal, the leaf is curving inward, kind of almost has like a taco shape. So I'm going to just kind of give it a nice gentle wave, kind of a ruffled edge. And it's going to connect all the way down to the bottom of the stem. And now I'm going to draw this leaf that's on this edge of the leaf that's on the back side. Okay, now let's draw the furthest left line, okay, the very outer edge of this leaf. And this line is pretty smooth here. Not as curled and ruffled as the one just next to it.
Shalini, after the sketch, can you hold it up a little bit for everybody to see then?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Thank you.
And I erase a little bit as I work, just because, you know, sometimes it doesn't look quite perfect. Okay, and I'm drawing just a little stem here, or a little vein here in the center that we're going to keep light later on. And then last detail, I'm just going to draw some lines that are kind of reaching up. So take a good look at that. It's a little bit sketchy looking right now. I need to erase some of those details. But hopefully you're able to get something pretty close to that. All right. And I always want to encourage everybody, definitely, I used the word perfect on accident earlier, but I didn't mean to say that because nothing needs to be perfect. We just want to create an impression of a tulip flower. It definitely is never going to look perfect in real life. And so kind of embrace the imperfections. All right, so I think we are good to start mixing. If you're still working on it, that's okay. Take the time you need, and then you can just, as Tim mentioned, you can just watch the replay later. So I'm going to switch out that with the painting I worked on earlier, just so I kind of have some, I guess, a color reference for myself and for you as well. Okay, so I'm going to start by mixing some colors here. The first thing I'm going to do is, so we're basically going to work in 3 stages. I don't always explain this process in all of my classes, but this is what happens in every single painting I do. I start by doing an underwash, and then I build form, and then I add detail. So this is kind of like a 3-phase process, okay? So our first phase is going to be an underwash, okay? So I'm going to start by getting a little mixture here of Alizarin Crimson and intense phthalo blue. And I want your mixture to be heavier on the Alizarin Crimson side, okay? So I want it to be like a 70-30. Does not need to be perfect. Obviously, I don't know. I have no way to really gauge that ratio. But I just want it to be a slightly purple version of Alizarin Crimson, okay? All right, so this is going to be a really watery, very watery layer here. And go ahead and just cover the entire tulip. And I want this to be, like I said, pretty watery. I want it to be a really light layer. So if you find that your color is looking a little bit dark, just dip your brush in your water really quick. And that's going to dilute it for you just enough to get a very nice, fine, light layer.
Shalene, is that the size 3 or size 6 brush that you're using right now?
I'm using the size 6.
Size 6, everyone.
Size 6. And I'm
And
using the
it's a
size 6 because it actually covers a lot more ground really quickly. So if I were using the size 3, it would work, but it would just take me forever. So use the larger brush if there's more space you need to cover quickly, okay? All right, so now I'm going to let this layer dry. So this is just an even layer of alizarin crimson and a little bit of that intense phthalo blue, okay? And so now I'm going to get a mixture going for the leaves and the stem, okay? And that right there was alizarin crimson with a tiny bit of phthalo blue, but mostly alizarin crimson.
I'm just going to chime in here just to let everybody know the class is being recorded. So you can always go back 24 hours from now and replay this and get more of the details and go at your pace if you choose to afterwards.
So I am now going to use yellow ochre. And I'm sorry that you can't see my full palette. It's kind of tricky. I need to get a little skinny one. But I'm using phthalo blue, which is just out of the frame a little bit. But I'm going to mix these two colors, okay? So yellow ochre and phthalo blue, the two of those colors. So you remember your primary colors and secondary colors. So when you mix yellow and blue, you get green. And whatever colors you're starting with is going to kind of determine what shade and even the ratio. So over here, this isn't like a true purple because I really didn't mix equal parts blue and pink red. So it depends on the ratio that you're using. So, okay, so I have a really beautiful color here. This is yellow ochre and phthalo blue. And I'm going to do what I just did over here using the same size brush, at size 6. And I'm going to do a very even, smooth layer. I want there to be a nice amount of water in your brush. And like I said, if your color is a little dark looking, a little too dark, just drop your brush in the water and dilute the color just a little bit.
One of the things that's great that Shalene's doing is that she's showing you how to mix some of these colors on here so you can extend your color palette that she's using the yellow ochre and the blue to create the green.
So you really don't need too many colors. You can keep it simple and do a lot of mixing. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, do you just constantly buy new paints? Do you love getting new colors? And I thought about it and I was like, honestly, I do love getting new colors, but you're never going to be able to get more colors than the colors you can just mix yourself. Just take some experimenting.
One of the great things you can see too, Shalene, is you put very little of the paint on your palette over there. So it's really the water that activates it. So and can go a very long way for your
yeah. Oh yeah, this will last you years. I mean, I guess depending on how much you paint, but they last me forever. This one I've had for well over a year. But I do like to use tube paints. Those are kind of my favorite, my go-tos. All right, so that is a good place to pause for a moment. So that is the first, that's kind of the first step, is to do that underwash, under layer. So it's the lightest layer of color that we're going to have in this painting. And now we're going to start adding a little more detail. So up here, your flower should be mostly dried, probably not completely, but mostly dry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same brush. I'm still using the size 6. And I'm just going to grab some alizarin crimson in its pretty much pure form. So just kind of activate that color. Love Alizarin Crimson. It's my favorite pink color. So get a lot of color in your bristles. And here we go. We're going to start building some form. So I'm going to start by just kind of going along the outer left side because I am right-handed. So it kind of makes sense to start over there so that my wrist doesn't mess up what I'm working on. So just go ahead and drop some color. I'm kind of referencing the one I did earlier. So go ahead and drop that color. And just a little tip that if you dot it or just drop the color versus brushing it on, you're going to be able to leave a little bit more paint on the paper if you blot it or drop it. Now I'm switching brushes, okay? I'm going to dip it in water, a little bit out of frame, and then I blotted it on a paper towel. So this is now a damp, clean brush, okay? There's no color in it. And I'm going to just smooth that color because I don't want hard water lines. So I'm just going to smooth. And let me pull this cup in frame. So what I do is I rinse it, blot it, smooth. And that's kind of my two-step process. I use one brush to drop color, and then I use one brush to smooth color. So I'm rinsing it off, blotting it. I try and always keep it damp and clean for that technique. So there you go. And I'm going to just, as I'm looking at it, I'm going to drop just a tiny bit more color on the outer edge. I really do want to start, as I'm building that form, as I said, I want to start creating the impression that this flower is round. And the way I do that is having these really dark edges. And as you can see, we're going to get super dark later. All right, so let's go to the next petal. Same technique, using Alizarin Crimson. I want you to just drop some color on the outer edge of this petal. And kind of reach upward, follow those lines if you'd like. Drop some color up here at the top. Basically just kind of want to keep working on giving the petal the impression of a rounded edge. Okay, so now I'm switching to my size 3 brush. And I'm going to smooth out those lines. I want it all to be very soft gradients. I don't like hard water lines. And tulips have a very satiny, soft kind of finish to them. So we're going to try and create that impression. And really smoothing out that color.
It's really coming to life now. It looks very pretty so far.
Thank you. Yep, it's really fun to start seeing it. Come to life. And all you gotta do is just work in layers, slowly build that color. I never paint just one layer of color. I'm always like layering it, like letting it dry, adding more color, letting it dry, adding more color with a lot of intention.
I think one of the things too that people should take notice of as you're dipping the brush to get the water, you're not oversaturating the paper. You're actually dipping a little of that off on the paper towel below you as well, so that you can really control that watercolor paint on the paper there. You're not just going right from the water to the paper.
And I find I have a lot more control when I do that. The drier my brush is, so the less water there is, the more control I have. Okay, so I'm going to keep on going with this technique. I'm going to go ahead and start up here at the top. And I want to kind of create that impression that there's some petals that are kind of folding in over each other. Just going to drop some dark alizarin crimson up here. Kind of drop it here in this crevice between these two petals. And I'm going to go ahead and right in between these petals here. Let's go ahead and make all of this just pure alizarin crimson. I'm being very mindful, making sure that I'm not painting on any right next to anything that has too much water, or else that water will just take it and kind of pull that color and smudge it out. I don't want that to happen. And this is getting a little tight here. So, okay, so I'm going to drop some more Alizarin Crimson up here at the top. And just up here behind this main petal. So I'm kind of dropping a bunch of color, and then I'm going to use my smoothing brush technique. So getting all of that laid down.
Just gonna let you know, Shalene, you're almost at the halfway point there.
Okay, perfect.
Just and give everybody else a friendly reminder, that this class is being recorded, and you'll be able to replay it 24 hours from today on the Michael's website. So if you need to go back and review and get some more of the details that Shalene has given you as she's painting, or if you're just watching and you want to paint along with her video tomorrow, that it will be available for you.
I think there's a huge value in just watching other techniques without trying to paint along right away. There's a watercolor painter from New Zealand I really love. Her name is Susan Harrison Sustain, and I have a couple of her watercolor classes. But the times where I've watched them, I actually didn't even have paper or paints in front of me. I just was watching, and it really helped me learn some new techniques. So it's not a bad way to do it. All right, so that's actually a pretty good place to stop for a moment. So as you can see, we're kind of halfway to where we're going to be. It's feeling good. So now we're going to start adding a little more detail to our leaf. Okay, hear my dog outside. Okay, I think we're just going to go back to that same mixture here. So we're going to do, I'm going to do that 50-50. So yellow ochre with phthalo blue. So that nice 50-50 mixture, but this time we're just going to use a little bit more color. So I had a really watered down mixture right here. But we are going to use a lot more this time. So make sure your brush has a ton of paint in it. I'm using my size 3 brush. And let's see here. Why don't we go ahead and start by, as I did over here, I kind of started on the left side and worked this way. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to drop some paint on the outer left side. And go ahead and just draw some lines that are kind of reaching upward just a bit. And I'm using my size.
Artist again? Can you mention the artist again you were referring to before? What was her name?
Yeah, her name is Susan Harrison Sustain. I'm not positive how to spell that, but I found one of her books at an old, like a thrift store one time, and I've just been such a huge fan. She creates the most detailed florals watercolors you've ever seen.
I think you said what, New Zealand, I think is where you said she was from. I think if you Google her name and just put New Zealand, you'll probably be able to find some works from her.
Yeah. Try just Susan Harrison. I'm not sure how to spell Sustain, but yeah, she's amazing. Super amazing. Okay, so I'm going to start painting underneath where we have this petal that's kind of folding downward. Or folding inward, I guess I should say. And I'm going to be careful to avoid that center vein. Notice over here in this finished painting how I maintained that light spot. So just kind of work on each side of it, drop some color there. And I'm using the size 3 brush, but now I'm going to switch over to the bigger one, the size 6. So it's a damp, clean brush, and I'm just smoothing that color downward.
Thank you to everybody in the chat who was posting Susan's website on there. Sharon and YZ Hang on there. Thank you for putting that on there. SusanArt.com. People posted it.
That sounds right. Yeah. Sometimes I'm so jealous that I can't hang out in the chat. I want to see, I can kind of see them popping up, like the chats coming through, but I don't have time to read them as I'm working. So also I just want to mention, I've said this before in past classes, but I have noticed that sometimes people will send me messages with their paintings, and I'm never able to actually see them because when the class ends, I don't have a way to access those past messages. So if you want to send me your painting, I mean, first of all, please go ahead and share it on social media, and you can tag me. But if you feel kind of shy and you just would rather send it to me, you can email it to me, or you can send it in a direct message over Instagram. But I really would love to see it. It makes my day to be able to see what you create from these classes. All right, so I'm just kind of working my way up here. I just kind of drop some color and then smooth it out, drop in color, smooth it out. And it's starting to take some shape here, huh? And again, that's yellow ochre and phthalo blue. That's making that really beautiful kind of desaturated green color. I think that's a new favorite of mine. And it's honestly a combo I never really used very often. So there you go. I found a new color, and I didn't even need to go buy a new paint tube. Just colors I already have. So I'm painting on the left side like I did over here. And I smooth it out so it kind of helps create that rounded edge. And let me hold that up for you. So you see how just dropping a tiny bit of color on the outer edge, it creates a more rounded leaf, doesn't it? And let's do that same technique. Ooh, not that brush. Using my size 3 brush. So I'm going to drop some color just underneath the flower. And I'm just going to go ahead and go along the left side, drop a little bit of that color, drop a little bit over on the right side, and then I'm actually going to use the same size brush. So rinsing it off, blotting it. So I now have a damp, clean brush to use. And I'm going to smooth that color. Nice gradient. And before we're done, I would love for everybody to, I mean, we have some time here, but before we're done, I really would love for everybody to hold up their paintings together so I can kind of swipe through and see everybody and see your faces too. That's a big part of why I ask everybody to hold up their paintings at the end. I'm like, I just want to see everybody. So I appreciate when you guys oblige me, humor me. Okay, so that's a good place to stop for our second round. So this is our building form phase. And now we are moving on to the final phase, which is adding detail. And that's what's going to make it really come to life. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm just going to go ahead and put this out of frame if that's okay. And we're just going to follow this one. Oops, just drop some water in here. We're just going to follow this one. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to get some Alizarin Crimson, get that puddle going again. It kind of all dried out on my palette.
Actually, just had a quick question for someone in the chat. If they make a mistake in one of the areas, like the veiny area, is there a way that they can fix that?
What I would do is I would take a clean brush, a wet clean brush, and go along it, and then use your paper towel and just blot it. It might not work perfectly, but that is probably the best. That's the best tip I have, is to wet it and lift it. But also, if you cover it up, it's not going to be ruined. It's still going to look awesome. Instead of having a light vein, what you could do is just make your vein extra dark so that we still have the impression that there's a vein there, if that makes sense. Sometimes some of my flowers, sometimes some of my leaves have dark veins. Sometimes they have light veins. You see it all in nature. So Okay, so I'm getting that mixture of alizarin crimson going again. And I'm actually going to do a second mixture. And that's going to be with alizarin crimson and phthalo blue. I'm actually going to close my window here really quick. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my husband was hammering away at stuff and I don't know how loud it is. Okay, so I'm going to get a mixture of alizarin crimson and phthalo blue. So this is going to be like a pretty purple color. All right, so what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to drop this alizarin crimson and phthalo blue mixture on the outer, hold on 1 second. So this is phthalo blue and alizarin crimson. I'm going to drop that on the outer edge and just very sparingly reaching upwards just a bit. And then I'm using my size 3 brush and I'm going to smooth that color out just a bit. And actually, as I'm smoothing, I'm kind of lifting because this is, you can do so many things with this other brush. You can just smooth the color, but you can also lift out some of that color. So if it's looking a little bit dark, just your brush is just naturally grabbing the color. So just blot it. So lift it out, depending on how dark you want this part to be. And I definitely like to have a lot of control here. I don't want to go too dark too quickly. Just try and do it all with a lot of intention. Because yeah, with watercolor, if you go too dark, it is hard to lift it out. So I'm always starting very light. You need the dark colors, but you want to add it, like I said, with a lot of intention, okay? So dropping a little bit more of that color on the outer edge. And man, look at that. That just made it pop. That petal, the outer left petal looks like $1,000,000 now because it has super, super light edges and a really dark edge. So it gives it some real dimension. And I'm going to do that same technique. Hold on 1 second. My microphone is getting in the way. So same technique, same colors. This is a very strong mixture of alizarin crimson and phthalo blue. That's how I'm getting this color here. And I'm going to drop this color, how about right here in this little crevice in between our 2 petals. It's a very strong color. And I'll do the same thing up here. Where those 2 petals meet. And as I work, I smooth it all out. And let me go and hold that up for you real quick. So just notice how that really dark edge just makes it have so much more dimension, doesn't it?
You could actually almost see inside of the tulip.
Yeah. Isn't that fun? And the trick is just having the value contrast. So having the really dark and the really light and just knowing where to place that color is how you create that dimension. So because it's a round flower, we need our edges to be dark. Make sense? All right, so same technique. Using my size 3 round brush, I smooth that color. This is absolutely hands down my favorite part of the process. I love adding detail. I love adding the really dark values. But you got to be patient. You got to build up the form. You got to do your underwash. You got to do all the steps. And then you get rewarded with the fun part of bringing out all the details, bringing it to life. Also, I wanted to mention that if you guys are enjoying taking classes with me, go to my website, shailenelouise.com/subscribe, and I'll always send you an email before any Michael's classes that I do. You can also keep checking back on the Michael's website, but I'll always let you know. So just shailenelouise.com/subscribe. I only send 20 marketing emails a day, so it's great. Kidding. I only send like 1 email a month.
For that, I'm going to drop in the chat for everybody the link for your next class for the prickly cacti. So there.
Yes.
Anybody
Awesome.
who wants to sign up, there's the link for the booking on the Michael's website.
We got some fun classes coming up. I'm excited about some of the new ones. But it's almost a prickly pear blooming season over here in New Mexico. In fact, this morning, my husband and I, we walked our dogs and we passed so many cactuses that are literally about to start blooming. So maybe by the time we teach this next class comes up, maybe they'll really be in bloom. Okay, what am I doing here? So a couple more details, let's see. Drop a little more color back here, a little more of that really dark color. We're doing good on time.
Yes, you're doing great on time. We're about 15 minutes to the top of the hour.
Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
We're gonna make it. I thought this class would go really fast. I wasn't sure, because sometimes I do classes with just so many details and so many leaves, but for this one, it's pretty simple. So doing good. Okay, so I think I'm gonna let this dry for just a minute. And actually, hey, remember somebody asked me if I accidentally, how do I lift out some of that color? I'm actually gonna lift out a tiny bit of color right there. I think I went too dark on that petal. And I don't know if you noticed that, but that literally just lifted out that color perfectly for me, because it was just wet enough that I was able to just lift it straight out. So paper towels are great tools too. All right. Last things I'm doing, I'm just dropping just a little bit more of those lines. Remember I drew those lines earlier when we were sketching it out? I just don't want to lose those completely. I think it gives it a lot of interest. So I just repainted them, and now I'm smoothing that color. All right, that feels pretty good. So I'm going to go back to our leaf. And for this, I'm going to get that same mixture going. So yellow ochre. And these are strong colors we're working with here. Really strong, very highly pigmented. So you grab a ton of paint, and it's not as much water. The lighter the color, the color will be lighter if you use a lot more water. So I'm not using that much. Not using that much water. And I'm actually going to do just one little thing. If you'll oblige me, I'm just going to grab a tiny bit of Alizarin Crimson, and I'm going to add it to this green mixture. So it's yellow ochre and what color did I call it? Phthalo blue, yellow ochre, with a tiny drop of Alizarin Crimson. And that's just going to darken it even more. having all three of those colors. But I do want it to be mostly yellow ochre and phthalo blue. Okay, so now I'm going to do, I'm using, I'm gonna switch brushes. I'm gonna use the size 3 brush. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing I did earlier, but I just want some darker values. So I'm going to drop some dark color just underneath the leaf where it's turning, where that petal's turning just a bit. Let's draw some lines that are reaching downward. And let's add some dark color just here over here by the stem. We really want to make it look like the stem is popping out. Kind of gives it a different plane, doesn't it? Let's drop some color on the outer left side. And then I'm going to use my same brush, the size 3, and I'm going to smooth that color out. If you have too much paint, you can use your brush to lift. If you have just the right amount, you can just use your brush to smooth. It's a very versatile tool. And it's going to stop working as soon as the brush gets very dry. So I just dip it in water real quick, blot it on the paper towel, and then come back and keep working. And I'm going to hold this up for you in just 1 second here. This is probably a good moment to do that. All right, you see how adding that dark color just gave this leaf a lot more dimension. I feel like it needs a little more right there. And it also needs it just underneath the tulip itself. Gives it some shadow, doesn't it? That's pretty much all we're doing. When we add dark colors, we're just adding shadow, which gives it a more realistic look.
Looks great, Shalene. We're just under a little less than 10 minutes left to the top of the hour.
Awesome. Doing good. Okay, so I'm actually pretty much done here. The last thing I think I'm going to do is, I say that and then I could probably spend another 20 minutes on it, but I won't do that. Sometimes knowing when to stop is, that's a skill to learn all in and of itself. Sometimes I can overdo it. That's why taking breaks sometimes is really necessary. Go get a snack, come back, and then you can know, okay, I'm done, or I need to add a little more.
And the nice thing about watercolor, if it dries, you can just add a little bit of water to it again and react, which is great.
Yes, I love it.
Pick up right where you left off.
All right, so I'm just taking it all in for a second. I think it's feeling pretty good. I think that's probably a good place to almost stop. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more Alizarin Crimson.
Well, as you're finishing up there, I'll let everybody know. Like I said before, this class has been recorded. So within 24 hours from now, you can go on to michaels.com and you can rewatch the replay of this video. And if you didn't choose to paint along with her, you can watch it and go at your own pace, which is really great. And it's there to review for time and time again. Like Shalene said, if you need to walk away and come back, you can hit the pause button and you can continue again after you get a snack or a drink. So
Okay, so I'm going to hold this up for you. Just moving the chat over. All right, so that's my finished painting for today. I think that's probably a good place to stop. And you'll notice that it looks kind of different than the one I did earlier. Not too different, a little different. Once your painting is totally dry, come back with your eraser and try your best to just lift out as much of the pencil markings as you can. Depending on the type of pencil you use, using just a regular click pencil, you should probably be able to get a lot of it out. If you want to use the best pencil ever for watercolor, I would recommend an F pencil. They're just great. I don't know, for some reason I'm able to erase pretty much everything if I use an F pencil. So I'm gonna let this dry. Maybe in another 20 minutes or so, I will come back and erase that, but that feels pretty good. So I'm going to switch to gallery view on my computer here so I can see all your faces. And if you guys wouldn't mind, let me hold up our paintings. Well, I guess I don't need to do that. But would you guys hold your paintings for me? Wow. They look
Give everybody
beautiful.
1 second. Everybody ready? Let's see. Oh, beautiful.
Wow. You guys got to hold them up for, there's a lot of people in this class. It might take me a minute to look through all of them. These look gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Really nice. Thank you guys.
Beautiful work, everyone. Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Wow. Also, this was a record attendance class. I was telling Tim, I usually don't let myself look at how many people are in the class because I get nervous. But there's a lot of people today. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And let me pull up the painting we're going to do next time. We're going to do a prickly pear. I feel like my light isn't super great, but that's what we're doing next time. And that's going to be a super fun class. So I hope I see you there. I believe there's a link in the chat to sign up for that.
I just dropped the link in there for you again. So if you can get onto it real quick, I'll get it because the class is about to end soon. And hurry up and get it.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It was a great class today. Shalene, thank you. I appreciate it very much. Hope everyone joins us for your next class as well.
Cool. All right. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.